A little over a year ago, we did a funeral for Rob Harrison. Most of you know and remember Rob. My daughter called him the cowboy because he would always wear cowboy boots and jeans, and he just had that look about him, kind of like he was a cowboy, something about the way he walked as well. I think you know the story. My secretary got to work one day, first thing in the morning, and there was a man laying on the ground outside the church, outside the door, and passed out. So she called Ronnie, not me, because Ronnie's bigger than me. He also lives right down the road, and wanted Ronnie to come and see who this was at the door. She wasn't going to go mess with him. Ronnie went over there, and it was Rob. Rob was a lifelong alcoholic and addict. He was often disappointing and unreliable to his family. And he had been sober, but he fell off the wagon. And he went to Lithonia, which is where his daughter said he finds the drugs. In the middle of the night, in Lithonia, he decided enough was enough again, and he started walking. So in the middle of the night, he walked all the way from Lithonia to this church. That's where he thought he could come and be safe. He made it all the way, passed out. When we found him, he could barely talk. We got him to the hospital. Al Myers was on the board of the Rockdale House for Men, got him in that program, really got him back on his feet and strong again. His daughter, when we did the funeral, told me that all her life, she thought if her father died, nobody would come to the funeral. She came in here, and the sanctuary was packed, front to back. She couldn't believe that many people had turned out for her father's funeral. He is an example of somebody that really turned their life around there at the very end. He's also somebody that came through our Wednesday night program. He was attracted by the idea of a free meal. At the time, he was homeless, and this was an offer for a free meal. He didn't come to worship with us on Sunday. That's not how he found us. He found us on Wednesday night, and he kept coming. And he got more involved, and as you know, he began to worship with us. He began to come to our Sunday school class. He became a friend to many of you. It was cancer that killed him. But in the end, it was a beautiful story of redemption. And the doorway into that was our Wednesday night program. It was the meal that we had offered to the community. There are other stories like that as well that come from our ministry on Wednesday night. A few weeks ago, I put a survey in the bulletin, and it basically said, our resources are limited. Do you still want to do that ministry? And I was hoping that it would lean strongly one way or strongly the other way, and we could move forward with a clear plan. As you can imagine, it was split down the middle. Half of you said, we definitely need to keep doing this ministry. Half of you said, no, we need to use our resources somewhere else. When we started the ministry, we had a lot more volunteers. This past year, we were really operating from those limited resources, and so that's what triggered this discussion. Do we still need to do it? Can we still do it? We don't have enough volunteers. We don't have enough support. Is it even going to work? It's stressful the way we do it. Andy Latimer once said something about the program. He said, this church, we punch above our weight class. I went to Google just to confirm what it meant. The term punch above one's weight class means performing or achieving results better than expected and beyond one's ability, skill, or experience. for a church our size, with that ministry in this community, we have been punching above our weight class. Then I looked around and said, our resources are shrinking. I'm not sure we can still do it. Maybe we need to shift our resources, really give the congregation the TLC they need, take care of them. I was leaning that way. Maybe go once a month. Maybe not do it as much. The survey said the congregation was split, so that didn't help much anymore. But I still thought we have limited resources. We can't do everything. Then I read this passage. 5 loaves, 2 fish, 5,000 people. It made me rethink my rethinking of that ministry. It made me think of how we go about that, the impact we've had on the community. It made me realize that what we do have is very dedicated, loving, compassionate, faithful people who want to feed the community. I had people come up to me after we sent out the survey saying, we can't let it go. We got to keep doing it. And he said, I'll do whatever you need me to do to keep it going. There are some faithful people who say, we may have limited resources, but if we bring them to Jesus Christ, if we bring prayer in, you just don't know what can happen. You have no idea. And that's part of what this passage says, is when we try to use just our way of evaluating things, just our wisdom, just our intelligence, just our way and our bias, we sound like the disciples. Lord, send them home. Send them away so they can take care of themselves. We can't feed all those people. And yet this story that most of you grew up with, it's the kind of thing that's taught in children's Sunday school class. This story challenges that thought that we can just send them away. Now, what the survey, the split, says is we need to do both. We need to keep doing this ministry. That's my opinion at the moment. But we also need to take care of our folks because, like churches everywhere, the church is not as big as it once was. Folks are getting older. I feel like we need to address that, like we need to do something. So I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have a meeting because that's what we do. We're Presbyterian. We have meetings. And try to discern what the Spirit really wants us to do. Can we keep punching above our weight class? Can we still be faithful with limited resources, opening up to the community, feeding people, so Wales can keep bragging to his, sister-in-law or somebody, and do things for you so that your faith can be strengthened, so that you can be cared for. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I have a feeling after reading this, maybe we could do both. Not on our own power, but maybe if we bring that limited resource to Christ, that he can bless it and then just amaze us at what we can do. I'm not sure, but after reading this passage, that's where I am. Now, I don't get to make all the decisions. I want to know what you think. I want to find out from you. I need volunteers if we're going to keep the Wednesday night program. I need volunteers if we're going to do something for the congregation itself. But I have a feeling that we can do that after reading this passage. We're going to have communion today. This passage, a lot of people, there's sort of 3 ways to look at it. One is it is pure miracle. Jesus turned this bread and these fish into more bread and more fish. I kind of think that's true. But let's just say you struggle with miracles. Let's just say that's a little hard for you to swallow. There's another way people tend to look at it, And that's that the miracle was everybody there opened up and shared what they had. People sharing is also a miracle. We know that. So maybe that's part of the way we will see the blessing of Jesus Christ. The third way is that it represents the Lord's Supper. That everybody got just a little bit, but that little bit was blessed. And so when we celebrate the Lord's Supper today, when you take the bread and you take the wine, consider it blessed by Jesus Christ. Consider yourself part of the 5,000 that got fed, connected with Christians all over this world and throughout time. And then as we gather to discern what we're going to do in the near future, ministry-wise, keep this passage in mind, that from our perspective, limited resources means we cannot do things. What I see is churches that are declining, the first thing they cut is mission, and they lose their life. They never recover. I hope that we don't cut our mission. I also hope you don't cut the pastor. Whatever. I hope that we approach our ministry the way these disciples did, which maybe is to doubt in the beginning, but then trust that Jesus can do amazing things. Amen.